Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the Pixel Crashers podcast, a podcast where I think I managed to finally start things correctly, only to fail at the very last step. I'm Angelus de Mortiel, joined once again by other people, including Kev the Gamer. GloriousKev. I'll eventually get his name right.
You just get the blinks. A blinks on Black Batman glare, bro.
Kev has just announced that he's leaving the podcast because Morty can't get his name right.
The disrespect!
To be fair, I got used to saying that name so many times. Anyway, moving on. Xaiphen's also here.
Let's go back. Let's go back to that for a second. I had to
not so fast.
I had to disassociate myself with certain peasantry on Twitter that also uses their name, the Gamer. This is part of the change. Because they say some hardcore peasantry that I couldn't even tolerate. And I tolerate a lot of peasantry.
We also have NightRose here.
May the force be with you.
May the fourth be with you. Or...
And Rose, in one line, proved that she's dirtier than the rest of us somehow.
No. I think a certain Luke Skywalker actually outdid everybody else when he said, "What? Where is it at? Oh gosh, all the damn retweets and shit get in the way." He made this really silly little rhyme that cracked me up about. Wrong one. Oh god, it's going to take me forever to get through this. Never mind. I'm not going to find that. Moving on then. Video games and stuff.
Video games!
We do actually occasionally discuss things of a video game nature. But this week, we're going to discuss how Morty hasn't played nearly enough of them and make fun of him for not playing any games.
It's okay. You can share in my glory in Mortal Kombat. Well, at least up until today when they fucked up the servers. Fix your shit, NetherRealm. I've been passing L's left and right in Mortal Kombat.
Against noobs.
I love noobs. Noobs are great!
He can't beat anybody with any skill.
Hey, it's not my fault. I don't know how much skill they actually have.
I saw a video clip
of
Kev. Kev posted a video clip of him on Twitter, and I was like, oh god, this is how he plays Mortal Kombat?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see why he can't beat anybody with any skill.
It doesn't matter. The important part is that I have a 60% win record, and I'm keeping it.
60%?
I think it might be 70.
That's pretty much half.
If
you lose
anything less than 130%, that's not acceptable.
Well, I'll tell you what, Xaiphen, come see me in Mortal Kombat 11. You can come get these hands, too.
Oh, I haven't played Mortal Kombat since 2 or 3,
and get these hands, bro.
Morton and I started Mortal Kombating in real life. It was time to put the game down.
I played Mortal Kombat. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 is the last one I played seriously, and then I played that one that was like the RPG Mortal Kombat very briefly.
Oh yeah, the Sub-Zero game. That was weird.
No, not the Sub-Zero one. The one where you're like the guy who starts off young as a kid and then gets old.
Oh,
Raiden?
Don't know.
Or not Raiden. I don't remember the game you're talking about. I was thinking of Shang Tsung when he shapeshifts, but he doesn't start off young.
Shang Tsung starts out old and then gets young.
Yeah, that's just it. So I can't think of who else he might be talking about.
It was like an RPG-ish game. I can't fucking remember this shit.
The only story ones I remember they did one with Jax. That was a story one. They did Sub-Zero, and they did Shaolin Monks. And Shaolin Monks was fire. Shaolin Monks was one of the best Mortal Kombat games, and it was basically a beat 'em up.
So this RPG game, and I'm probably gonna end up looking it up here in a minute. Essentially, you were like in a kind of an open worldish thing, and you would go and find all the different characters, fight them, and then you could like, if you beat them, you got their powers or something.
So Shang Tsung.
Was it Shang Tsung?
It had to, like, that's the only character that's like that I know of.
Well, Shang Tsung doesn't steal their powers though. He just shapeshifts.
Yeah, no, this was you were like a Liu Kang kind of guy, but you ended up being able to get a signature move from all these guys. It was like an RPG thing.
Goku. That's
basically what I'm hearing is you were the chosen one.
Goku.
Yeah, you were Goku.
Goku steals people's techniques.
Yes, Goku. That is. I'm gonna have to actually look this shit up because y'all are fucking worthless.
That's a one character attribute of Goku that is like a direct rip on the mythological Monkey King, where like he would see somebody perform a certain martial arts technique like a couple of times, and then he learned it just like that, and end up using it against them frequently.
Yep, that was actually a thing that he did. That
a disappointing thing.
It is gonna take me forever to find this damn thing because
I mean, is it that relevant?
It is very important, and it needs to be discovered.
I think this is your OCD kicking in.
This
is.
This is most certainly my OCD because I need to fucking remember what the hell that was. Video games.
Meanwhile, does anybody else care? With show of hands.
Probably not. No.
Glorious.
3 spin-off.
I'm just doing my own thing over here, so I'm not really paying attention to you guys right now.
And shout out to Rose, by the way, getting on Twitter, smacking around peasants. It's been great. Rose been on Twitter talking shit.
I couldn't help it.
We can't get Xaiphen on Twitter to talk shit.
No.
I am bad at the arguing thing.
Oh, no, you don't really argue.
It's not that I can't
take Mort's approach. Say something to make them look and feel really, really stupid and don't respond anymore.
I'm not good at that. I'm not good at letting it go.
I'm getting better. Because I'm the same way.
And see me, I'm kind of that way, but I learned to egg them on into saying more stupid things that entertain me through my workday. It's just all bait.
I get that pitbull reflex, whatever angle of approach I start with, I got the pitbull reflex, and I just can't let go. So I gotta stop before I start, and that's a big problem. That's been a big problem in the past, because I don't.
But
I don't
debate
argue well.
is
I don't
so
debate
fun.
well.
I wonder if it was
you don't have to. They're idiots. You don't debate them.
Either way, it doesn't work out well on my part. I'm the bait taker, so it doesn't.
Oh yeah, if you're the bait taker, then that might be hard, especially because some of these people, they don't really care about logic or reason.
No.
Yeah. The best I can do, like if I have an appropriate smartass comment to drop in and then get the fuck out, and then ghost. I can do okay with that.
By the way, it was Deadly Alliance / Deception had the conquest mode, where you played as Shunjiko. That's what I didn't play that mode. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. That I think that's about enough wasting time for today. We'll move on from that.
There's never enough.
We do actually have stories that we're going on to. I just got sidetracked by trying to figure out what fucking Mortal Kombat game I was talking about because I apparently don't play it.
Yeah, it's Mortal Kombat. They're all great.
Sure.
I love Mortal.
You know what game was really great?
Kev, you just made me choke on my own spit.
You know what game was really great? Earthworm Jim. Earthworm Jim was a great game. So was Earthworm Jim 2.
I didn't like
a smooth segue. That's
very segue. And I'm gonna say it like I said it in pre-show. Back in the day, I did not like Earthworm Jim.
Yeah, I think
there's something.
So,
wrong
by
with
the way, guys, just a last minute announcement. GloriousKev is no longer on the podcast for some reason. I don't know why. His video just started breaking up, and
we can't handle that anymore. We can't handle that.
No, in any case though, but speaking on the note of Earthworm Jim, so they're actually making a new Earthworm Jim game. To kind of my mixed feelings on here. Now, to be fair, it's the good news, bad news. Good news is it's actually being made by two of the original creators of the Earthworm Jim series, which, if any of you remember, the Abomination Earthworm Jim 3D was not made by them because Shiny Entertainment back in the day had a strict no sequel policy.
After the second game.
No, they had a no sequel policy after the first game. They were just so drugged up after the first game they forgot.
That game was out there.
Let's be honest. At what point your objective of the mission is to chase down a running door, trip it, open up the door, and exit the level? You know that some drugs were involved in that.
The second game, the instruction manual is like, okay, what does the Y button do? It rings Aunt Patty's doorbell in Germany, so stop pushing it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to push it.
God, those games are awesome. You go to the question and answer is Earthworm Jim dyslexic? Yes, no, or yes backwards?
All of the above?
Yeah.
If you've not played these games, you're missing out on some classics.
It definitely was a classic of 90s era eccentric platforming. And it was great at that.
I didn't feel like the controls worked for the game very well, but maybe it was because I was on the Genesis. I don't know how it felt on the Super Nintendo.
Xaiphen and I played it on SNES, so
I had the Genesis.
It had some rough points even on the SNES too, because the playability of the game was good enough, and that's about what you got for it. There were some interesting factors in there in playability, but for the most part, it was good enough. It was just the content of the game that was just so fucking entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Like the bubble gun. Earthworm Jim pulls out a bubble gun that all badass mean looking. Does nothing. Throws out some bubbles. That's it.
See, but I feel like that's one of those games, and I think a lot of those third-person shooters back then were kind of like that too, where I felt like they just played better on an SNES controller. Like me on the Genesis, I never felt like any game involving shooting felt good on that controller, but it was great at like beat 'em ups, fighting games, Sonic, obviously.
You know what game played better on Sega? Sonic.
Mortal Kombat.
Sonic.
Mortal Kombat. We had blood.
Sonic, where you push 2 buttons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you had a 6-button controller.
So can we just take a moment? Can we just take a moment to everybody pay respects to Sonic? He died and he was resurrected as a zombie Sonic.
Yeah. Sonic,
for those...
we should have left you alone at Sonic CD. That should have been the last Sonic game.
But here's the thing:
love Sonic Mania. I absolutely love Sonic Mania.
As we're sidetracking on here for a moment, just as a disclaimer, yes. So to fill people in, they released a trailer for the live-action Sonic movie that it looks like it's following the trend of Detective Pikachu in its CGI style. However, unlike Detective Pikachu, the CGI looked horrible. Like,
and on top of that, it doesn't have Ryan Reynolds' voice to save the movie.
That's true. It looked absolutely atrocious. And as a follow-up, the creators of the movie did announce saying, okay, like everybody across the internet let out a collective, fuck no. Yeah, like it became a meme overnight.
Theories that were flying around about that. That was funny shit.
Yeah,
a meme overnight. Did it take that long? It became a meme in like seconds.
Yeah, it did.
It's like they hit live and said, "Wait, they haven't even gone through the whole clip yet, and it's already a meme."
Okay, in today's instant communication world, overnight is a figure of speech.
Yeah, it means 5 minutes.
5 minutes? It took that long?
30 seconds to 5 minutes. That's what overnight means.
Yeah. In any case, though,
5 minutes is a long time in today's industry.
The creators of the movie did announce that they're going to rework the CGI and that they heard everybody's feedback. And I'm like, well, that's good because, good God, that movie was gonna tank.
I'm glad they heard us, but I'm still scarred. I had a nightmare about that CGI last night.
Did you see the picture I retweeted
I need
of
counseling.
Five Nights at Freddy Sonic? That was great.
No, he probably scared Freddy too.
Yeah. In any case, though,
Kruger.
Moving back to Earthworm Jim. So good news on Earthworm Jim being made by the original creators. Bad news is that it's going to be exclusive to a new remake console of the Intellivision.
It's not coming to PC?
No.
I guess they don't want my money.
It's going to the Intellivision Amico, which is a new... let's be honest. It looks like the Ouija or Oya, whatever I want to call it, Ouija console that bombed a few years back.
Oh yeah, that one. I forgot all about that.
It has a lot of big names, especially from Nintendo. It's got several former Nintendo vets, as well as a few other very, very significant names in the industry. And they're very deliberately tackling the retro gaming market, most particularly, which I feel like is not very... I mean, people pick up a few retro games down there, but I don't feel like that it's that lucrative of a market to sustain a business off of, right? Like Sony or Nintendo can release their classic PlayStation or classic Nintendo consoles or whatever, but that's really not the linchpin of their business, you know? They've got a lot of other stuff to keep them afloat. So I feel like this might not do so well financially. And that's kind of the concern.
It does have a low cost to entry, so that might be something that helps it out. Or it's supposedly going to have a low cost to entry. Like what the console price is not set, but supposedly no more than $180. Yeah. And none of the games are going to cost more than $8 each.
Yeah,
so that might help it, but my thoughts are, why buy that when you can spend literally like $30-$40 more and just get an Xbox
the controllers that come with it are iPod Touches.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, so something else here to keep in mind is that first of all, they have their claim, their marketing pitch is that they're basing on the 4 pillars of Intellivision, which is like easy, friendly, family, fun, or whatever I think is what it was. And essentially what that means, what they've translated that to, is all of the games are going to be rated E. So they're not going to have any like mature games on there at all. There are no microtransactions of any kind. It is buy a game, play a game. And more than likely, just like the Intellivision was when it released, most of the games, if not all of the games, are probably going to be some form of multiplayer. Because that was one of the sticking points of the Intellivision. Everything was 2-player. So I feel like they might do that same thing. Although on this one, you have the 2 iPod Touch controllers. Sorry, not iPod Touch, iPod Classic controllers. With touch, yeah. It's got the little round disc, just like an iPod Classic, but it has a touch screen on it. You've got 2 of those, but then you also will be able to connect 8 smartphones and have a similar interface controller on those. And y'all have phones, right? I feel like that.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm still upset that we don't have any booby fighters. You saw what went on happen with Mortal Kombat, and now we're making another console with no booby fighters.
People are upset because Mortal Kombat, they are toning down the sexualization of a lot of the characters, which, to be honest with you, like, I'm so on that concept. I'm like, dude, if NetherRealms wants to tone that down, that's their creative decision.
Right. Like, I don't care if titties don't offend me.
Whatever. Like, you want to have over the top fucking Lara Croft, quadruple D cups. Okay.
They realized that they wanted to stop competing with Dead or Alive's Jiggle Fizzle.
Right.
Yeah. Nobody can compete with Dead or Alive.
No. And I mean, I'd hate to say it, if you really want those scantily clad, there's going to be mods more than likely. People always mod these games.
My question is, why are you looking for that in a video game? Go meet a real woman.
Or at least Pornhub. I mean, come on now. Let's be honest.
At least.
Come on, haven't you? Wait,
it's not hard to get a woman to like you.
I mean, let's be honest here. Like, anyway, so
see the people that look for that in the game, they are epic fanboys.
Epic fanboys of titties?
No, they can't meet a real woman.
I mean, they're probably lotion fanboys.
I shouldn't have to explain the joke. That just ruins it. Damn it, Kev.
Don't be mad at me because your joke didn't make sense.
And welcome to the ADHD podcast, folks, where we are so far off topic that I don't even know where we were going.
You're the one that said that all the games had to be friendly on this console.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to Morris Minor in chat who said that
for $200, this console ain't worth it.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to Morris Minor in chat who said Seagal was all about that arcade experience. If you say that though, you have to say it in a whisper. Because that's how Steven Seagal talks.
It's gotta be an angry whisper, though.
Yeah, it's got to be an angry whisper. Steven Seagal doesn't like talking in a full tone of voice, but he does like his arcade experience.
Movie history, though, he is all about that arcade experience. So, that's not inaccurate.
Well, if you look below, you thought he had a typo. He meant Sega. He was
did.
talking about the glorious Sega Genesis. The Sega Genesis Master Race.
That is a guy who does not quit. He's still making movies today.
The thing is okay, so yes, it was clear he was talking about Sega, but it's so much more fun to translate that into Steven Seagal.
No, Sega Genesis.
That's going to be this podcast running joke.
Yes, guys, Seagal doesn't like what you have to say. And the fact,
I'm afraid of Chuck Norris, not Steven Seagal.
And the fact that your phone is correcting to Seagal tells me that you talk about him a lot. Just throwing that out there.
Speaking of phone, I should probably turn off my ringtone.
Moving on, guys. Let's go on to another fun story on here. And talk about actually something kind of cool, right? So Rose had mentioned, I want to say couple weeks ago or the podcast before that, something like that, talking about Valve's upcoming VR headset that they're going to release, and they announced it, and it is definitely a flagship grade VR headset, and it has a very flagship grade price at $1,000 for the kit. $500. Now, to be fair, it is compatible with existing Oculus Rift and Vive peripherals, so the controllers and the lighthouses you can use with this. So if you already have that set up, you only have to pay $500 for the HMD module itself. But if you're buying it new,
if it costs that much,
yeah. But the thing is, and one of the things that fascinates me the most about this, which I don't have any pictures up of it because it didn't load those properly, is two things. And then I'll ask you because I assume that you guys, of course, have read through this story. The two things that kind of excited me about it was the controllers and the earphones. The earphones, most notably, because they call them off-ear earphones. And what that means is that they're like cans that you put on your head, but take off the actual can and just have that earpiece floating out and away from your ear, and it gives you a nice sense of spatial surround sound, which is kind of fascinating to me.
It's a little bit less pressure on your head from an already
less heat,
encumbering headset,
and less heat. Yes. But what like, so as far as if you guys were going to go for a VR headset and looking over what this guy's offering, what do you think it has done right? And what do you think it could do better? Or what's something that's missing from this that you guys think would ultimately, if you were given the money for it and were able to buy it, what do you think might deter you from buying it?
For this price, I feel that I didn't see anything on it being wireless, and I pulled up the article just to do a quick search.
You're right.
I feel it should be wireless. Because you look at it's the HTC Vive, they've got one at a similar price point, but it comes with the wireless jacks, the wireless module. And that's the one thing I would improve on this. But given the base specs, I'll deal with wires and I'd buy it straight up.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Kev?
I'm honestly not interested in this device. The price is too high. That immediately turned me completely off on this guy. Like they're asking for $1,000. I'd rather drop that onto a graphics card, or I could even drop that onto a entirely. Well, actually, not with the way Nvidia's charging. I could drop that on most of a new build.
Yeah.
Maybe if if Navi comes out well priced, or maybe
what about the Rift Go?
I don't know enough about the Rift Go to answer that, and part of my issue is that I'm not also in the VR market, just because the games aren't there, so I don't have a reason really to get into it. I mean, VR porn might be awesome. I don't know, but as far as VR gaming is concerned, I don't think it's there yet. And I don't want all those wires across the room, like Rose was talking about too. But then I could have concerns about latency. So there's that.
Well, if it's running like Bluetooth, yeah, obviously. But if it's running a very high frequency like WiGig, WiGig could handle the bandwidth and is ultra low latency, because WiGig is around I think it's millimeter wave or higher, I can't remember, but like it's very high bandwidth, very low latency, and that would be a good use of the WiGig protocol that has otherwise been useless, because it's pretty much a one room Wi-Fi. It is very poor performance outside of a single room, so that would actually be a very good use on something like this. And then you just got to look at battery, power options at that point.
Maybe because I assume that because of the standardization, they would probably use something like 2.4 gigahertz. But I'm like, that's such a crowded frequency.
WiGig is 60 megahertz.
No, I'm saying 2.4. I don't know anything about WiGig.
You really would honestly like. So and Rose also probably can chime in on this one. You talk to any wireless, like anybody who has the CWNA or something like that, they'll tell you that you always want to get the hell away from 2.4. Everybody's technology is moving away from it because, like you said, it is so crowded, it's ridiculous. That's why most wireless access points are operating on 5.
Yeah, and 5 is even starting to get crowded because everybody's moving to 5.
But 5 has more bandwidth
to handle that.
It does. It has a lot more bandwidth.
Crowding.
Yeah.
In my household, everything's on 5 except for Bluetooth.
See, in my household, everything's on the 2.4 except for me. I'm on the 5 by myself.
Cheat.
Oh no, it's not about cheat.
Yeah,
ripping everybody else off at the house, making them sit on the slow network. Psh. Yeah,
that's where you have to look at, obviously the controllers, they can make a good long use of battery life. The headset would be the biggest issue right there, because you like to compare it to a phone, even though it's not the same, it's similar. You look at the size of the battery versus screen time that you have on something like that. That's where you get a concern on battery life, and like why they didn't try to go wireless on, like, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. But then again, the Valve Steam controller, they're like, yeah, we'll just put AA's in there, no rechargeable option. Fuck you.
Well, I mean, you know what? People talk about rechargeable and having batteries in there. I'm going to use the PlayStation 4 controller, for example. I'm always afraid, like, if something happens to that battery, I can't change it. I actually prefer that my Xbox controller has a play and charge kit, and I can choose to use that and just swap the rechargeable battery, or I can put batteries in there. I like the flexibility.
I have not torn apart DS4. The DS3, though, was super fucking easy to change out the battery in that one.
I'm not taking apart the controller. And I don't think most people are either.
No,
I know it's possible, and it's probably not even difficult. At that point, it's like, I'm just not doing it. Like, it's things to me, it's not worth it.
Yeah, things like that. Well, I think the idea behind that is they expect the controller to break down physically before the battery actually starts showing end of life.
Yeah,
right.
If it has enough of a quality battery in there, if they use cheap, poor standard quality batteries in there, then yeah, that's not going to last.
Right, but then you have to think about, there's going to be people out there that are going to be keeping these controllers around for years upon years, or you keep these consoles around, for example, for years on years. Like, think about all the people that play retro games out there. There are people out there that still play on 360 PS3, haven't got PC, haven't upgraded to the new consoles. They're happy where they are, and they're still using their old hardware.
That may be intentional on a planned obsolescence, though, too. Even if the hardware, can sort of last that long, you got probably about a 3 to 5 year lifespan on that battery before you start seeing degraded performance, depending on use case scenarios. It's going to have a hell of a lot better cooling on that battery than it will on a smartphone. So you might be able to reach 5 years on it, but still.
Right, but what happens when, say, okay, I want to play, like, we'll use somebody playing on a PS3. Somebody playing on like a PS3 right now, legitimately been playing on that console for 13 years. If they're still enjoying their PS3, should they really have to go out and buy a new battery or go out and buy a new controller or try to find the new controller? Because
should they have to? Absolutely long enough? But does Sony want them to? Yes.
Yeah, Sony does want them to, and that's part of the problem. That's where I'm like, I'd rather have the rechargeable option. I want the option.
And you want to go to a different console that has better rechargeable option, like a Microsoft? Well, they don't have exclusive.
That's why I like PC, because if I just want to swap the controller, all I have to do is go out and buy the other controller.
And there it is. The glory of PC.
Oh yeah, my elitism leaked. I'm sorry.
And then going back onto PC, we have the awesome VR on PC too.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I wouldn't even bother with VR on console.
I do want to talk about the Knuckles for a second.
Yes.
But first, I did want to give a shout out real quick to Morris. Thank you very much for subscribing. It's very much appreciated, man.
Woohoo!
But on the Knuckles, that was something. Have you guys ever seen the tech demo for Boneworks?
No.
I don't know. I've seen the tech demo with the Knuckles, though. Somebody was doing some kind of climbing demo with it.
Okay.
Where individual finger grips on what they were trying to climb with. It was one part of that was a EV2 to EV3 dev kit demonstration on what the differences between version 2 and 3 of the Knuckles.
Yeah, and I want to see. I don't know if they reference it in this article or not, but I got to see this tech demo. I
meant to watch that and never got around to it.
Yeah, of Boneworks. Let's just quickly, and this will be, of course, someone that's listening to the podcast won't really get to appreciate the visual aspect on here. But
I want to correct myself because I just checked HTC Vive. The highest class, which is the professional, well, there's enterprise, but it does not come with a wireless. That's another $300 you got to shovel out.
Gotcha.
Oh, God.
Come on, give me the actual...
That would have been something like for future planning that Valve could have done on this headset is a power adapter, mount point for a battery for this system. And wireless communication, upgradability. That would have been a great idea on their part. And that's the thing, is that would have been future sales for them too, because they could have been like, all right, we can sell you these additional kits. Granted, it's more money, but, from a marketing standpoint, that would have been smart on their part.
Yeah.
My question is, while the technology is amazing, I still have a problem. This is the reason I think VR hasn't taken off yet. Is it just me, or the game's just a bit lackluster? There aren't a lot of really oh my God, I need to play this games on VR. And the more appealing ones are on PSVR, which that's probably going to be a laggy frame rate mess.
The problem with it is right now, as it stands, is their simultaneous marketing to enterprise and consumer realms. And the consumer realms, that doesn't get really any farther than tech demos. Enterprise environments have found some more practical use out of it. But when it comes to gaming, it's it's okay.
And that's just it. It's okay. I'm looking at these VR games on Steam because I don't know anywhere else really to get VR games. And the only VR game that I've actually seen that I actually really want to play is the Batman game. There's Batman Arkham VR. Oh, and you found a kitty game.
Iron Man VR too. But no, so this Boneworks,
exclusive to PlayStation VR.
If you guys haven't seen this Boneworks thing, so this is a game that's in development or a tech demo. And essentially, it's making use of the Knuckles. And one of the things that's very unique about this is how it detects your finger movement and allows you to grab things, because the Knuckles essentially strap around your hand right there. And whenever you release the controller, it still can see your fingers. And so as a result, a lot of what they're developing a way for you to be able to more realistically grab things which really makes all the difference. One of the things I don't like about PSVR is the wands. It's the same thing I don't really much care for about the HTC Vive, for that matter. Is the wands are just really, I don't know. I just feel really awkward just doing this, right?
Yeah.
There's one thing that could potentially, Microsoft is developing a VR controller. Now it is very infant stage just because they pretty much got 2 fingers on it, but it is more or less a pinch controller. Like you actually feel the physical presence and haptic feedback, and you're feeling physical pushback on what you're pinching. It's like pinching a little ping pong ball, like cotton ping pong ball, and that's the sensor they have.
I know the Rift.
Like I said, it's a very rough concept, but if they could actually merge the tech on that with this, that would be pretty fucking impressive.
The Rift controllers are a little bit better, but I feel like that these Knuckles are probably I think that's what everybody really is talking about the most, is the Knuckles. Not the Rift, excuse me, but the Knuckles for the Index are probably what people are talking about the most.
The controllers look okay.
Yeah, the controllers are really fantastic. I think that's one of the major things, is making a VR world feel interactable in a substantial way, right? And that's always
so hard. Like,
yeah,
you're still interacting with the controller.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what I like. A lot of like
brush across my face in this world, even though I'm standing in a rainstorm.
Yeah, well, for example, Skyrim VR, right? As far as I'm aware, and now I haven't played Skyrim VR, but the first time I saw it, someone was sitting on their couch with their VR headset on, playing it with a controller, and I'm like, that just sounds like fucking throwing up to me. Like the motion sickness from a first-person like combat perspective. Now, if you're in a cockpit like a race car or a spaceship, and you're in VR and you're playing with a controller, that would be fine. But if you're actually your body moving around and you're using that with a controller and a VR headset, that just doesn't sound good to me.
Yeah, unless you're actually moving your body around, like the treadmill setups that we've seen on that sort of thing. That's an interesting workaround on that. There was also another thing I came across while looking into this VR stuff, and this one is like, it's just like I immediately thinking this can go very badly wrong, because part of the problem with VR is it's trying to make it more immersive, but if they fuck something up, it actually snaps you out of immersion, where you could actually use your imagination. Like you're in a controller, you use a controller, and you just got a screen in front of you. You can fill in the rest of the details with your imagination to a certain extent. VR cuts into a lot of those imagination factors in there, and if it fucks it up, it yanks you out of the immersion. But this other accessory I was looking at, which is an accessory to any other standing VR system, it's a mask that goes over your face. It can Kev was talking about being in a rainstorm. It can blow mist on your face. It has a heater in there to simulate like the heat of sunshine. It can blow air at you if it's wind. And here's the kicker: aroma. It has fucking scents in there.
Smell of vision.
And like the one, like, okay, I'm immediately thinking, I'm an Army vet. Something that you do not get in any Call of Duty game, that you can't get into the immersion of, is the smell of that shit. The smell of, that's, just as bad as any of the, something that is a major cause of PTSD, as many other factors, is the smell of it. And you start throwing in that as an immersion factor, you're going to give people PTSD just playing a fucking video game. Like,
is that a good thing? I wouldn't say it's necessarily a good thing, though, right?
No, I didn't say it was a good thing. I think like there's a certain point where it is too far. Like there was a joke about that, we need to make holodecks because first person shooter ain't shit unless it gives you PTSD.
I mean, how far are we going to go for immersion though? Like, how far is it going to go? But I agree with you. It's like, if you really want to be truly immersive, you got to feel that wind on your face. You got to feel the rain on your skin, the crunch of the rocks under your boots.
I mean, I think we'll hit the point of immersion once we get to the Ready Player One or the Nerve Gear level, where we have total cerebral immersion.
Exactly.
Now, Now there was a accessory that I saw a long time ago. I don't know if it's still around, but it was like it's a vest that you put on that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like if you were playing a FPS, it would actually thunk you like you were hit by a bullet.
It was
but
one of those. Well, no, it was.
Do you want to be that immersed?
Well, it was one of those ooh, this is a cool thing that someone is designing, but you never actually see it hit the market because all it is marketing B-roll that someone has for a product they're trying to market that never makes it to market because it's absolute garbage. Know, but the idea is sound of having that VR like chess piece or whatever that gives you haptic feedback and shit.
We have that. That exists. It's been used by the military. Because like they have back in the 80s they started with the Miles gear, which is a laser system. It uses the real rifles but no ammunition, and it fires lasers at chess pieces, and it more or less sounds off alarm. Oh, you got hit. We've had several iterations of simulated combat since then. One of them was little paint pellets, which is like 10 times worse than paintballs, because it's paint pellets with ballistic physics behind them, like that they're hard. That hurts. Yeah, they'll open wounds and you won't kill you. And then there's another one that is an electrified vest. And you think, oh, it gives you a little shock. No, it will fucking drop you to the ground. Like you got hit, like you're going down. That vest will make sure you go down.
It's essentially getting.
I don't want that in my video games. I want to, imagine
this is when Kev. I'm gonna need Kev to get real good.
How far is too far?
That's my point. See, I don't want to come back from my gaming experience with PTSD and bruises. I found this game on Steam while we were talking called Sexy Miss. It is a VR literal porn game. Like the ads got girls standing around naked, like full butt ass, feeling on each other. Girls giving head in the trailer. I'm like,
of course,
what?
Kev would find this.
There is.
I just was looking for VR games. I was not looking for a sex game. I just went on Steam and said, hey, what VR games are there? And this was one of the top ones that are like top, what was it, new and trending?
Yeah.
And they're on the first page.
Is any new type of media environment and format, there's going to be porn for it.
No. I'm totally porn. Usually are the first early adopters to any of this shit. When people first learned how to paint, they painted porn. When the photograph actually came around, they photographed porn. Right. And that's not my point. But my point is like how much immersion do we need in all of these mediums? At some point, we're gonna have people playing with fleshlights, watching this game. And now we're like, hey, I don't need actual women anymore. I got my VR headset. I got this fleshlight, or I got a vibrator. I got this dude on the screen. What do I need?
You know what?
I have to step fucking the robots.
You just solved a worldwide problem right there.
No, what, virginity?
Overpopulation.
Yep. Yeah.
Murder all the console peasants?
Obviously,
they're trying to murder the master race. Oh, fuck.
As Morris mentioned, there is actually a VR section of Pornhub, but there is also the one I saw that like something along the line Kev was talking about. I did see a VR strip club game when I was scrolling through there, and I chuckled about it. I was like, "What? Really? Seriously? It's on Steam. There's a VR strip club game." I'm like, "All right." Yeah, does it have microtransactions where I can actually give the strippers real dollars?
Why isn't it exclusive to the Epic Store?
Why is it exclusive? Because, well, you see,
all the other games are.
Here's the problem: Epic ain't got no fucking VR support.
Epic also doesn't have controller support. Epic don't like the titties.
It doesn't have any support for anything. It's a fucking web browser.
Well, they have support for taking your money.
Yeah, taking everybody's money. They have.
Well, now they're starting to put their games on Humble Bundle. So I'm like, I might buy the games on Humble Bundle and just use the Epic launcher. I don't necessarily care about that.
Don't do that.
Don't.
I'd probably still do it.
Don't.
I'd probably still do it.
No.
And Kev has suddenly cut out again.
I shouldn't cut out because I don't agree with the hive mind.
No, it's not so much a hive mind thing. It's the whole thing is so they can get you on that platform, because if you activate that game through Humble Bundle and then you have it on that Epic launcher, Well, then you can just you might be tempted to buy another game that's on Epic Store that's not through Humble.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas,
I
you know,
don't
you
want
could
to
just
sort through their store. Like,
or since you have
the launcher from my computer,
or since you
actually,
have,
I installed it like once and then ended up putting it back.
or since you have like 5 million games in your backlog, you know, maybe you could play one of those until the timed exclusivity expires, and then buy it on GOG or on itch.io or somewhere like that.
Or I could just buy it on Humble like I buy my other games.
Yeah, but buy it on Humble once it's available to activate on Steam or on GOG or something.
So
I'm not. I just don't want to put my information on Epic.
Exactly. Don't give them anything. That's my point. Yeah. Like,
so as I was mentioning, military use.
No, my name gonna be Rufus Johnson on Epic.
But in any case, so what were you saying, Xaiphen?
As I was mentioning, military use of VR simulated combat and other stuff like that brings us to another interesting story of the Department of Veterans Affairs partnering with Microsoft to try and use video games as a method of rehabilitation for soldiers returning from battlefield. And this is a two-part factor in here. Because video games are actually 2-3 part whatever, because it can help with physical and mental rehabilitation. So I guess that's a 2-part thing. You got the social factor of gaming, because a lot of games have some kind of whether it's good or bad, have some kind of social factor, and they're obviously trying to use Fortnite or something with a whole crap load of trolls on it as a form of rehab may not be great, but So they're going to want to be a little bit more selective on that sort of thing. But you also look at the physical rehab, just games in general, can improve hand-eye coordination and other issues like that. But Microsoft has their adaptive controller for soldiers with actual significant physical injuries, missing limbs and other stuff like that. They can make use of this adaptive controller to, be able to game effectively with it. Mm-hmm. I know it's a bit of a PR stunt, but, I see, this is being a significant help to people who are in need of this kind of help.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, I've in general been like a fan of the development of that adaptive controller, because I'm all about more people being able to enjoy video games, the better, right? And obviously, not everybody can use keyboard, mouse, or a controller or what have you. So that adaptive controller is this is I'm being serious here.
Okay.
This is like the adaptive controller is for people who have severe crippling physical disabilities, and it is actually a really, really good thing that, like, I don't think Microsoft gets credit enough for developing that controller.
I don't think Microsoft gets enough credit for a lot of things.
Attach toggle switches to it, breathe switches. This is a controller that would have allowed Stephen Hawking to play video games.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what we're getting at here is, like, potentially Stephen Hawking could have been, somebody in his level of condition could play video games on this control.
Yeah.
And you look at, some soldier, wartime injuries are not quite that severe, but they are pretty fucking ugly. There's a lot of people I've talked to in the medical industry, and there's some shit that you can see in the civilian side in the medical industry, but it is a different world from wartime injuries, from explosive injuries.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like these people, they come home, they're really fucked up, and this is something that can really significantly help them out psychologically and physically.
Yeah. It essentially I like the idea, because like you said, when people, especially if they're like come home severely disabled and disfigured from a war zone, and they're able to kind of have that escape of playing a video game that we all enjoy, and it's something that's just an every other day thing for us, but they can never do that, so they're forced to kind of I guess face the realities of the world around them, which is, frankly, best I can gather, would have to be the most miserable thing in the world. Like, if I broke a finger, I would feel like I was...
Well, even without any physical injuries, like there's a certain aspect of you never completely adapt back to a normal civilian life. I have all of my body parts intact, aside from the wisdom teeth they took from me, but that's that means nothing. But like
damage control.
There's just certain things like I look at trash on the side of the roads and it makes me paranoid. That there's certain things that
you would hate this area.
It's been almost 15 years, and I will never get over that. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. No, and that's where.
But my life in video games is, I feel, I never really thought about it before, but I feel it's actually been a pretty big help on, and I'm not diagnosed with PTSD. There's people who are a lot more severe condition than I am. I've never really had that kind of significant level of involvement, but, it probably could have been a lot worse for me if it weren't for video games, surprisingly. It's something I never really thought about until, coming across this story.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool. Rose, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say that the more people who have access to video games, the better. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, like, this is one thing that I don't care if you've got a console. I don't care if you're on a PC. Just play a goddamn video game. Play what you enjoy. And this making it more, or this expanding the amount of people and the access to video games is very important.
Well, like, video games actually can help out aspects in real life, whether it's career or personal life, that you don't even realize. Like, I've spent a lot of time in grind frame, which the end game of that is fashion frame.
Yeah.
As an unintended result, when it comes to home projects and picking out the right color schemes, I've done a pretty damn good job of that. And and there's other things like they encourage surgeons to play video games because it helps with their hand-eye coordination. Laparoscopic surgery at this point is pretty much a fucking video game. So that's that, like, people don't think about, like, video games is just a hobby. No, like, it actually improves you as a person, whether you realize it or not. Some games don't. Some games are just absolute trash on your psyche, like the loot box simulator. That's not good for anything.
Mm-mm. Yeah, no. The comedy one was watching Dr. Mike, who's a YouTuber who's actually a real doctor, play Surgeon Simulator.
That's a bad game great. As an example.
that sounds hilarious. I've seen Dr. Mike before.
There was I saw somebody, I can't remember what reviewer or blogger it was that was going on about that game, and it's like started showing some of the horror of that game. She's like, nope, like throwing up, nope. Excuse me, while I just nope the fuck out.
But it's essentially you just start. You start throwing like, I have to cut through his rib cage. Let's just throw throw. I'm gonna pull out his lung. I just toss it back in there. It's like,
now that is something that the Knuckles may help out with.
Yes, it would. It's just comical watching them trying to do it.
You have that little fine-tuned grasping of a scalpel, as opposed to like, I'm just gonna grab the end. It's in his eyeball. Shit.
Didn't Team 4-Star play that at one point in time? I feel like that might have been a Renegade for Life. What the Vegeta guy do, Stanley Parable, was one of the best YouTuber Let's Play moments in history.
Last one I watched, I think, was them doing Borderlands or something. I'm hearing Vegeta, mine, as he rushes.
Let's take a moment, devolve back into our internet trollish self. Because I know Kev. I don't want Kev to fall asleep. And let's talk about Epic Games again.
No,
I feel like that at this point we should just call this the Epic Games podcast, because it's like Epic Games and occasionally other stories.
Wait a minute,
Randy Bitchford.
Wait a minute. Weren't we referring to it as Epic Acquisitions?
You're right.
Now?
Excuse me. The name of the company is Epic Acquisitions. The best part about that was that Kev totally missed a joke in that one.
I was trying to think of something even shittier to call them.
Yeah, I don't think there is. I'm not sure if there really is. Calling them something Epic Acquisitions. I don't know what would be a good acronym to use for that.
I wasn't even thinking, honestly. I'm like working and on Twitter at the same time.
Yeah. That sounds like a get good moment. Yep. Get good. Kev needs to get good. Yep. Anyway, so the news this week was actually that Epic announced that they've actually acquired the developer of Rocket League, Psyonix, which now as a clear kind of disclaimer on it, I believe that Psyonix was actually founded by former Epic employees. So it's not like it's a strange thing. It's pretty much like they just reacquired their own people. So that's the thing. The thing is that obviously Rocket League is one of the most popular and longest running contiguous live service games out there, along the same lines of Warframe, as far as, you know, continuing to update and iterate and get a lot of microtransaction money. So it is actually doing quite well for itself. And now, before we go too far along, I do want to say that for anybody that wants to do the whole, oh, you were complaining because Epic was buying up third-party exclusives and therefore they bought up a company so they have a first-party exclusive, so you don't have anything to complain about. No, I've been complaining about all the exclusives for months, even before Epic started their bullshit. So that's not a topic.
Just months? You've been complaining for years.
You're right. I have been.
Yeah.
How many podcasts have we devolved into Kev and I arguing about our epics or our epics
exclusivity in general? We used to go back and forth about PlayStation exclusivity, first party exclusivity, but specifically.
The thing is, at this point, you know what? It's become such a thing. I have now in my brain transposed the word exclusive with epic. So now I'm just gonna call them epics. They're not exclusives anymore. They're epics. They're epic loot, guys. Epic loot. Anybody? No.
Hey, I still want PC exclusives because the controls ain't gonna work on no controller.
That's not. I personally don't think that input restricted games are necessarily exclusive. Right. That's.
I mean, you can't play Total War on a PlayStation.
Well, if PlayStation and Xbox make a keyboard mouse peripheral, which I really think they should do.
Xbox is working with Razer.
Yeah.
And they have a keyboard made by Razer that's fully supported by the Xbox.
In that particular case, I see absolutely zero problem without putting a Total War game on Xbox. Mm-hmm. It's going to run like hell because Total War games are tend to be very CPU intensive. About is that as more on Steam since 2015, and now it's going to get pulled off of Steam and become exclusive to the Epic Game Store.
Did they actually say that?
I'm pretty certain it was. I'm pretty certain it was leaked that was going to be the case. Once the purchase was. The
end of 2019.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
5-6 years. You would have already probably bought the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at least that's kind of my stance on it. I actually have no problems with Epic buying Psyonix. I have no problems really with the particular deal. I actually wish they would have put the game on GOG. You know, but before the whole deal, like why leave it just on Steam? I wish more games were just available everywhere. GOG, Windows Store, Xbox Store. Exactly. Put them all on Epic too. I don't care. I'll just buy where the cheapest game is.
Yeah, that's you've heard my statement. I want my hardware, my distribution platforms, and my games to all compete on separately of each other on their own merits. I've said that I don't know how many fucking times. That's been my argument against PlayStation. People don't pay attention or don't even care about the platform anymore, including the company that runs it.
Well, you got the corporate slaves. Yeah, they care about the platform having as many exclusives as possible.
I'm pretty certain Rocket League has been a big pusher of crossplay, Morris. So you're not going to see anybody, like if they go exclusive to the Epic Store, people that have it on Steam will still be able to play with them just fine. Hell, they were one of the biggest proponents of they got Sony to fucking allow crossplay on the PlayStation 4. That was you want to talk about an achievement that's above and beyond what anybody else has been able to do.
And on top of that, we were talking about Fortnite a year ago. Rocket League was pushing for that before Fortnite was even a thing.
Oh yeah. Yep.
The one thing for launchers, especially on PC, it's all hosted by the same servers. So it doesn't matter if you launch it on GOG, it doesn't matter if you launch it on Epic, it doesn't matter if you launch it on Steam. They all do connect and play on the same servers. It's just when you get to that cross-platform where the issue happens.
Right, and I don't know how they actually handle the matchmaking in that respect. Like, what makes it special? Do you channel it through a VPN or not a VPN?
It's actually
local network or something.
No, it's actually all about the database replication. So essentially, your profile, your stats, all of that stuff. With Rocket League, it's pretty easy because Rocket League's gameplay there's like the car you have, as far as I understand, and any of you guys that play Rocket League, I don't, but I've watched enough of it to where your car, like the skin you have on your car, doesn't really matter. All the cars perform the same and operate the same, and
it's all cosmetic.
Yeah, it's all cosmetic. So as a result, there's no items or stats that are going to affect the gameplay in any way, any differently on another platform. All that they have to do is they have a profile of yours that has your name attached to it that's on a database, right? And then that database has all of the like text file or XML file items of the cosmetics that you have, right? And then they just sync that Xbox, PS4, PC, wherever. And then when you log into the game on whatever personal thing, it will then pull that local database for that platform. Say, oh, you're Morty. Here's all the cosmetics you have. And then I log off my PlayStation. When I log off of PlayStation, it syncs the databases across to PlayStation, to PC, and so on. I go and log in on my PC. It says, oh, hey, there's Morty again. Here's all of his cosmetics. That's kind of how the system works. That's the reason.
That wasn't the question I was asking.
Oh.
What I'm meaning more so is, say, like, for example, with the gatekeeping, we'll say on PlayStation, what gets, and I'm not sure if I don't think it's a per game basis, but like, where does the network or the packet go from when you're in PlayStation, for example, or Xbox? I want to play, I don't know, we're going to say Mortal Kombat. I haven't played a lot of Mortal Kombat. I send my shit out because I don't think it goes directly to the Mortal Kombat server. I'm pretty sure PlayStation and Xbox like filter that shit or whatever. I just don't understand. I just don't know I don't understand the platforms.
Yeah, so from what I understand on those, you have actually three systems on here, but one of them doesn't really matter. Third one is the chat system, which we don't really need to worry about here. But you have two systems going on. For almost every game I know of, now, depending on the size of your game, if it's a big AAA title, like say you're playing FIFA, right? That's going to use matchmaking through EA because EA runs its own infrastructure and CDN, right?
Even on console?
Yeah, even on console.
My understanding was on console, the consoles do their own matchmaking.
Nope. There's a reason why you get the disclaimer that the online interactions are not rated or blah blah blah, is because you can report people, and there is a feedback system through APIs that comes to the consoles, but the actual matchmaking is still handled by the publisher if it's a big game. If it's a smaller game, or if the publisher for whatever reason doesn't have quite the heft of an EA or an Activision, then in that particular case, you will run into where they will actually use the platform-specific matchmaking like Steam or like Xbox, PlayStation, so on. The other piece you have on top of that is the friends system, which to you just looks like a friends list. But actually in the background, it's actually a lot more complicated of an interconnect. and it actually will interconnect into whatever the matchmaking system being used, be it Steam or Xbox or be it EA or Activision. It actually plays back and forth and feeds data of you are in this game in this kind of session. Is that session joinable? That sort of thing. So, for example, if like last week we were playing Dragon Age Inquisition, you could pull up me on your friends list and see I'm playing Dragon Age Inquisition multiplayer, and oh look, there's a spot open. I can click join. There's a lot of complicated back and forth communication that happens between the matchmaking servers and the friend system in order for that process to happen. And that doesn't.
With the matchmaking, that makes sense as to why I say like Fortnite, that's cross-platform, but on Fortnite you have to have your own username to join with your friends on the Fortnite system,
exactly,
regardless of what platform you play on.
And that's because Epic operates its own matchmaking servers for that game. Like I said, there's smaller games that I've seen that make use of like some other systems, like for example, and the thing is there may not be matchmaking in the game. A good example, or really crummy matchmaking for that matter, Shadow Warrior 2, I think had the barest of matchmaking available on it. In fact, I'm not even sure if it really had matchmaking per se. It was really weird to try to join the multiplayer matches in that game when we tried it out.
I remember we had to like make our own name for Shadow Warrior, and we had to search for each other through a browser.
Yeah, it was really janky, and that was not using Steam's matchmaking. But it also wasn't really, it didn't really have much of matchmaking at all. So that's a whole different ballpark there, and that gets really complicated. But suffice it to say, when you're dealing with a game that's cross-platform like Rocket League or Fortnite, they're operating their own matchmaking systems. And the thing is, this is something that most people don't realize. Technically, if I wanted to, and I imagine there's probably some cost to this, but I think I might actually be able to use matchmaking through something like Valve or something and have it run off of GOG as well. But I haven't seen that before. So I don't know if there's challenges there that I don't see. But
that might be why we had to do the janky matchmaking we had to do in the first place.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know if Valve, if nothing else, Valve has like a list of servers that you can rent out from them for that sort of thing. I don't know if they have something that's a little bit more independent that they host that you don't have to rent out, but at least they have that option on there for, you want to set up your custom game that is not otherwise supported, and you want something that's ready to set up that you just got to rent out.
Well, you also have other third-party services that will allow you to set up things like matchmaking services and host them on like AWS or something like that. So there are options and alternatives available, and that's generally how there are scalable options, but usually there's enough of a cost incurred in that a lot of small multiplayer games will just use a single platform's matchmaking. Now, for the complaint that I've had with BioWare multiplayer games like Andromeda or Inquisition or Mass Effect 3 is that they're using EA servers, which are cross-platform, and they could legitimately have cross-platform play, which would make games like Dragon Age Inquisition have a lot longer tail of enjoyment out of them. Because you would essentially be able to play with on PC with Xbox people or whoever. Except the problem is that I think that it's a little bit too political for EA to want to throw their weight around in that way and more or less tell. Because I think that they have the ability where they could just tell Sony to go shove it, and you're going to support this whether you like it or not. And Sony would probably have to comply because it's EA, or if Activision even bigger. But I don't think they do, because that would be a bad look, and that would have probably other repercussions down the line that they don't want to have to deal with.
Well, it would have been an opportune time for them to jump on it when the Fortnite fiasco was going on, because if Activision and EA jumped in on that at that same time, this would no longer be an issue. It wouldn't
be a discussion. Yeah.
it would be done.
The walls of the walled garden
like that to jump in. You've got Epic, Activision, and EA all gang up on Sony and say, no, this is the way it's going to go down. The conversation would be over.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's not really a financial benefit.
Well, I mean, like, it wouldn't be over. The conversation would be different, very different.
Exactly. But yeah, in any case, though, as we went off on a different direction on there, if you own Rocket League and you play Rocket League right now, nothing's really going to change for you. However,
so stop review bombing.
No, actually, I again, to reiterate, the review bombing and to anybody out there,
method of communication.
Yeah, to anybody out there that wants to blame the consumer because the consumer doesn't like what Epic and Psyonix are doing here, that review bombing is probably the only means of communication they have that actually gets noticed.
Yeah, you want to blame the consumer on the corporation fucking up. That is the Apple 4. You're holding it wrong. That is going right back to Apple. Or iPhone 4.
Bought out.
Well, no, the thing is that no, it's I can't just walk into an office building, slap a stack of money on the table, and say I own you now. As much as Tim Sweeney, I know, wishes that were the case, because he would have walked in.
Stack of money, he just pulls his dick out.
Yeah, he would have walked into Gabe Newell's office and unzipped his fly, slapped some money on the table, and said, "You know what to do."
Mm-hmm.
If that were the case. But the thing is that's not how acquisitions work. You can't just, especially if it's a private company. If we were talking EA or Activision or another publicly traded company, hostile takeovers are much easier to do because they're publicly traded. I just know this because I just spent several days researching into this for the video I'm doing.
Can I just add one thing to the whole review bomb thing?
Mm-hmm.
The reviews are still there. They haven't been deleted. Yeah. So all you Twitter idiots, just calling you out right now, it's still there. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Like I said, I saw someone that was just pretty much like, oh, all you stupid, immature, and it was someone that I actually didn't have much of a problem with, which was kind of, to me, a little revealing, I guess. Someone essentially calling people to review bomb a bunch of essentially immature babies. It's like, no, they're consumers that are upset by decisions that are getting made, and nobody's fucking listening to them. That's the whole problem. That's the reason why review bombings exist, is because corporations continually ignore their feedback.
Mm-hmm.
What else are they to do? What other way do they have to send a message? Whereas they see every time a game gets review bombed, it gets news headlines. It's getting the attention. It's like,
but then all the corporations see on the flip side of that is, oh, they're throwing a temper tantrum because we did something they don't like. Oh, well, we're going to do it anyway. It doesn't affect our bottom line.
No, there's more thought into it than that, because it does have an impact. But essentially they do the math and say it's the same thing with Fight Club, right? They do the math to see, is it more expensive to do the recall or to settle all the lawsuits that are going to happen as a result of not doing the recall, right? That's essentially the trade-off they do on the corporate level, is they say, okay, this review bombing is going to have an impact on us, but is that review bomb going to have a significant enough impact on us for us to need to change? No? Okay, we're just going to keep on. And that's been Epic's modus operandi the whole time here, is that they have not seen any calculatable effect on them, because the Epic Game Store has no reviews. You can't review bomb anything on the Epic Game Store, and essentially all it's doing is it's hurting Steam sales and those publishers. So from Epic's point of view, it's only helping them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they have no problem with it. Randy Pitchford, on the other hand,
well, right into that one.
Randy Pitchford, on the other hand, will happily have a meltdown over. He actually did make a comment a while back.
He had a meltdown because you told him about his microtransactions.
Oh, good God. Jesus. So, my favorite one was actually Jason Schreier. On a background of this, a long time ago, you guys might remember this game called Battleborn, which was a MOBA that stupidly decided to try to compete with Overwatch.
Didn't it come out at like the same time as Overwatch too?
Came out like within weeks of each other, and their advertising made it sound like it was an Overwatch competitor, but it wasn't. It was a MOBA. It was nothing like Overwatch, but because they advertised it as an Overwatch competitor, it just got steamrolled and died within months. So, and it wasn't actually a bad game, which was kind of sad. But aside from that, the comedy was that Randy Pitch or someone said, the game's probably gonna go free to play soon. Randy Pitchford threw a hissy fit and said, these stupid fake news places talking about how it's gonna go free to play. It's never going free to play. A few weeks later, so Battleborn's gone free to play, guys. That was something Jason Schreier from Kotaku posted up, and I lost it. I was like, that's so perfect. That is just fantastic. But
Battleborn is free to play as a trial, and then you have to buy the full game for $40 or for $30.
I was pretty certain it went free to play. Are you sure that's?
No, I'm looking at it right now, and there's 68 people in group chat, but nobody playing it on Steam whatsoever. Well, that's how it launched too. So
I don't know. I'll look at that because I was pretty certain I heard it actually went free to play.
I'll send you the link. I'm looking at it on Steam right now.
Okay, that's fine. We'll look at it afterwards. It may not have been free to play, but I'm pretty.
The trial is free to play. I'm staring at it right as we speak.
Okay. In any case, though, back to the topic on hand here. So Randy Pitchford made a very clear statement a while back saying that Borderlands 3 would have no microtransactions. That was his exact words. No microtransactions. And then when they did the demo of the game, it came to light that there would be purchasable cosmetic, small cosmetic purchases. Small, micro, purchases, transactions. This English language, it gets a little gray for me. I'm not sure if I quite understand the nuance there. Game Informer called him out and said
it was glorious.
Called him out and more or less said, "Yeah, so you said there was no microtransactions." He melted down like you could almost hear the tears coming through the tweets as he was talking about how the fuck could they do this to me? Like, and the editor-in-chief of Game Informer pretty much said, "I stand behind this. You lie."
He literally said, "Show me where I lied," and this is where I held out all of Randy Pitchford's tears.
Yeah, because his essential argument was when he said microtransactions, what he meant was the bad stuff like loot boxes. Motherfucker, microtransactions are any small purchases in a game. Horse armor is a microtransaction.
Mm-hmm.
I watched this Twitter meltdown live. It, like I said, it was fucking glorious. And like Mort said, you could hear him. I think I was there before you guys because I actually posted something. Randy Pitchford's having a meltdown, and that's when you guys.
I responded to him. I said, this is." He said, "Because people are going to think he's a liar." So I responded to him, "This isn't why I think you're a liar. There's a lot of reasons I think you're a liar."
Yeah, and a lot of people
this just adds onto the pile of lies you've told us.
A lot of people were saying that, but it was also extremely hilarious because 2 hours after he just shut up because he needed to calm down, he posts 18 tweets not addressing the article. The crux of the article, the microtransactions.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 18 tweets times 240 characters. Go figure that out.
This is what happens when you don't embrace your else.
Yeah.
You should have told the truth, Randy.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to hold your L. We all know you're a liar. People are going to buy the game anyway. You have to understand that Epic is going to see some success with Borderlands 3. They're going to see a lot of success with Borderlands 3. No matter how much we say don't buy Borderlands 3 on the Epic Games launcher, people are going to buy Borderlands 3 day one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like we're fighting that uphill battle, and I recognize that. But
they're going to pre-order.
Randy's, oh yeah, they're going to pre-order. They've already pre-ordered. They pre-ordered the day that they thought it was coming.
Yeah.
So like when you recognize that we're fighting the uphill battle, I think Randy realizes that too, and he's going to do whatever the fuck he wants.
Oh yeah, Randy Pitchford gives no shit. He legitimately thinks the Aliens Colonial Marines is a good game. That should tell you everything that you need to know about his state of mind.
I legitimately think he's a bigger liar than Trump. So,
I mean,
ouch.
Is it any shock that he's really good friends with Tim Sweeney?
No.
But the one thing that does, like, if you watch his tweets, he does very much spout some of the same stuff that Trump does with, like, the fake news, big gaming media, that kind of bullshit. So,
well, I mean, the gaming media is fake news. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try to sit here and defend news media that I am trashing on a frequent basis, because they operate off of the internet ad economy, which means they are incentivized to post clickbait and not research anything and rush shit out before they have chance to vet any of their information. You have few gems of actual journalism, which is usually the exposés that Jason Schreier does. Everything else is just regurgitating press releases or talking about, here's 10 Game of Thrones characters we think will die this week. That's the extent of journalism now.
That's not news.
No. It's opinion pieces and blogs, and that's pretty much it. So I don't have...
Which the YouTubers do better.
The thing is, though, is that Game Informer, even though I think they're one of the ones that I'm not a big fan. No, it's PC Gamer that I think is just garbage. But, well, and you know what? There's a lot of them that I think are garbage. That's not the point. The point is that Game Informer actually did a pretty good job of calling him out on this particular inaccurate statement. His comment, of course, is, I agree that a few words I chose on stage left room for them to be construed towards confusion. In a moment where I had expected the team and I would be supported and applauded for holding the line with our stance on AAA monetization, I was hurt to suffer both claims of dishonesty and a suggestion that we had fallen on this point from Game Informer.
This was one of those 18 tweets I was talking about.
Dab my tears with $100 bills. You know, it's so rough.
This is the world's smallest violin.
It's so tough to be a billionaire CEO.
I mean, it is. I mean, I don't have to wake up till 4:00 in the afternoon. I get drunk the moment I get up and party, and then I go back to sleep and think, how can I piss everybody off today? And then go lay in my billions of dollars.
Yeah. Right? I mean, to be completely fair, CEOs do actually work a lot. I can personally attest to that. I'm mostly being hyperbolic and just throwing shade on Randy Pitchford because I think that he's a scumbag. But that's the major point on here, though, is that if you're going to make a statement as a CEO, as a public figure, and I might have just a tiny bit of experience drafting and understanding the concept of public relations and public statements, you need to be very careful when you choose your words on the internet, because while the internet has a very short attention span, its memory is eternal.
Yep.
This is why Chris Brown can't make a comeback.
Right? Or this is why James Gunn got fucking fired from Guardians, although he got hired back later. He got fired from Guardians from a tweet that he made like 10 years ago that was, was offensive in some way. And then, no. Well, Disney is very big on their family-friendly thing, and that was not a very family-friendly series of tweets, and so obviously they had to cut ties. It was tweets from 10 years ago because the internet's memory is eternal. Although why you didn't delete those tweets, I don't know.
Because they were 10 years ago and you probably forgot about them?
That's true.
Yeah, good luck going through 10 years of tweets just to find it.
I can't remember tweets I did 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, I can't even scroll through and find tweets from yesterday. So I can definitely
if your Twitter is empty as mine is, that might be feasible.
Give it time.
It's I want to know who's the loser, who's the social reject that went through 10 years of tweets, grave digging, going through the muck.
You got to realize
find this dog shit.
Whenever it comes into this political identity politics shit that left-wingers and right-wingers do, they will dig for days to try and find dirt to throw any particular person under the bus that they
social reject virgins.
Yeah, it's
well, at this point in time with today's technology, they got a computer nerd helping them out with that. It's like create a script to dig through this shit.
Money on
look for these keywords.
Yeah, they just look for keywords, and then whoever happens to say those keywords, they just roast that person. Don't care if they lose their job over something they said 20 years ago. It doesn't matter. If they said that 20 years ago, that means they still believe that now, and therefore they should be ostracized. And anyway, I'm going off topic on here. The point is,
20 years ago, I was a teenager. I said a lot of stupid shit as a teenager. Did a lot of stupid shit as a teenager, as teenagers do.
Yeah,
I should be held accountable for that now.
Weaponized autism.
Hey, that ain't nice.
Here's the thing.
You're not entirely wrong.
The DoD actually looks for people of certain personality deficiencies, as it would be labeled, for certain jobs because they are naturally very good at certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my major point is you're not entirely wrong, because I have actually met one of those such people that does comb through people's stuff like that, who did happen to be on the spectrum. I don't think that's necessarily that all the people like that. I think that was just coincidence, but it's still comical that you say that. And I actually have met someone that was like that was on the spectrum. Fun little coincidence there. Like I said, I don't know.
How do you think I mined so long on EVE Online?
Well,
it's not more has so many hours in Fallout 4.
That's what happens when you overdose on Adderall. You just sit there and mine for hours.
What's Adderall? I'm kidding. I know what it is, but
doing psych profiles, people who are psychopathic can be more desirable for special forces work because of that level of detachment that they have. It's a lot easier for them to do that kind of work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's same thing.
Whereas a lot of other jobs, you go through a psych profile, like, we've determined you're psychopathic. We don't want you for this job.
The thing is, not just special forces work. You know who actually legitimately does psychoanalyze people and identifies traits of psychopathy for their recruiting methods? CIA.
Epic.
Oh yeah.
You know why?
I still haven't gotten a phone call from him.
Because the CIA actually wants people that are good at faking emotions. And psychopathic's one of the traits of a psychopathic or a sociopathic person is that they tend to be, because they don't usually feel an empathetic connection to other people, they tend to become through adaptation very adept at emulating the emotions of others in order to fit in. That makes them almost the perfect spy mentality. We are so fucking just getting off topic on here.
Oh, yeah.
This has absolutely nothing to do with gaming.
We went into straight off the deep end into conspiracy theory shit.
Yeah, this now has become the conspiracy theory, the Pixels Conspiracy Podcast. Guys, did you know that Area 13 they have Area 13 has the PS6 in it already. They've had it for years, guys. And it does
shit.
No, and it does 16K resolution at 5,000 FPS. JTech TV told me so.
Shit. You know what I gotta say to that is to quote Stephen Colbert, with all of the satire behind it, baby carrots are trying to turn me gay.
I think I found the most epic subreddit. And I'm
no. We're getting away
stop,
from here.
Kev, stop.
I'm sharing it. I'm sharing it because it's funny. The page is funny.
Kev, that's a bad Kev.
Bad Kev.
Oh.
I've already shared it.
Oh God! Clicks it for entertainment.
How do I feel like I'm going to end up on this subreddit in a couple of days?
Right?
You're
already there.
I already ended up on the PC Gamer subreddit for days. That was enough anxiety for me.
Yeah. They were trying to argue at your every little point.
Oh no, but the thing is, you had a mixture. You had either people. My favorite one was the guy who tried to actually sound pseudo-smart and actually tried to claim that Valve makes a 92% profit margin.
Where did we get this number from?
That was painful to watch. I'm
sorry.
Know,
I was trying to read through that and
they're as bad as the
numbers are not
they
this
just pull
guy's
numbers out of the air.
Well, and then whenever I said a 92% profit margin, he was like, "No, I was meaning that's after the 70% cut." I'm like, you do realize the 70% revenue is not Valve's revenue. That's the publisher's revenue. They don't both get to claim the same money on the same thing. That's tax fraud.
When I was looking through that, I was realizing that guy does math the same way he does 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. I mean, really, that's like... He was trying to run a Chewbacca defense there. This is Chewbacca. This does not make sense.
Oh, while we're on the subject of Chewbacca, his actor died this weekend.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
that was Chewbacca. We'll miss you, Chewie.
I saw a picture that was very apt. That was Chewbacca holding up. This was an old picture. Chewbacca with R2-D2 next to him, holding up Princess Leia, and it was kind of like, "Peace out, guys." And I was like, "Oh, that's a little misty right there." It's
I mean, you know, it's gonna be really, really misty. The fact that one by one, the original Star Wars cast are dying like flies, and
we're gonna be left with fucking Rey. We're gonna be left with Rey, and I'm like, God, fuck this. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
There was a YouTube video. Somebody made a counter on how many limbs Obi-Wan has moved, or how many limbs various characters have removed. Obi-Wan was the clear winner. Like, man, that guy was vicious. Back then and now. I mean, like, he was decapitating people, removing arms, hands, whatever.
Did they count Anakin's? Like, he lost 4 limbs from that?
Yeah,
fight?
they counted that on there.
Okay.
They counted Anakin. They counted the very first one in the Cantina fight where he took off the guy's arm. You know, all of that when he bisected Darth Maul. Yes, I use the term bisect because it's a fun, accurate term.
I'm just saying, when I watch the Disney Star Wars movies, I want to lose a limb. I'm willing to turn off the. If they ask me, do I want to lose a limb or turn off the movie? Take the arm.
But the new Star Wars movies, none of that shit. They changed the physics of the lightsaber for the new Star Wars movie. Like, right. You got things that would remove a limb, like the guy gets cut across his spine, he's fine. Like, wait, no, that's not how that works. That guy doesn't have a spine anymore.
Yeah,
that's why Disney should not make Star Wars.
I have a sick fascination with, at some point, seeing Episode 9, just simply because I want to see how J.J. Abrams cleans up Rian Johnson's mess. Because J.J. Abrams left to himself probably would have
going to clean it up with lens flare.
Yeah. No, the thing is...
Can we clean it with fire?
The thing is that I think that had J.J. Abrams done Episode 8, things probably would have been okay and people wouldn't have had the opinion. Like, yes, 7 was a bit derivative. It had pretty much copied a lot of the story stuff on there. By the way, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it. Sorry, it's been years now. Han Solo dies, which a lot of people are upset with, but that wasn't J.J. Abrams' decision. That was Han Solo's decision. That was, Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford wanted his character to be killed off in Empire Strikes Back. He's wanted his character to be killed off for a long time.
I don't know if it was Mark Hamill or if it was actually George Lucas that was making a reference to. I want to say it was Hamill making a reference to Harrison Ford on. He was incredibly talented, but he was lazy. Like he had the potential to do any fucking thing, act any role he wanted, but he just didn't have the motivation for it.
Mm-hmm. But no,
he was just in there for that big stack of money.
Yeah. I don't want to throw the quote on the wrong person, but it was somebody who was in the original cast or crew that made that statement.
See, and that makes sense because everybody thought the first Star Wars was going to flop. That is why Carrie Fisher auditioned for it in the first place. She wanted to tank the role. She wanted it to tank so bad that she was going to be blacklisted from Hollywood to get back at her parents. Gotta love the teenage rebellion.
That's right.
Fun stuff. Fun stories on Star Wars, and I'd just like to give a shout out and say fuck Rian Johnson for really, like, the prequels were cringy, but at least they managed to keep a lot of the core.
Hey, come on. I prefer the prequels.
The only thing that the prequels truly, like people like, the romanticization. Yes, that's it. The romanticization between Anakin and Padme. That was like, it doesn't fit.
Sand is coarse and
with it.
Gets
but
everywhere.
The metachlorians, that was just like, no, stop, don't do this. Like, part of the whole Star Wars fantasy
I'm going to argue against all of your points because I prefer the prequel.
I don't know. I don't have a problem with the prequels. I like a lot of aspects of them. The metachlorian part, though, like, it is not a sci-fi. It's a fantasy. Don't try and bring sci-fi elements into your fantasy story. It doesn't work.
Yep.
It's sci-fi fantasy. Like,
no, it's not.
It's hard to have that world.
It's not sci-fi fantasy. It's a space opera.
The space opera. Yeah.
No, that is legitimately the genre.
Yeah, I'll give you space opera.
It is a space opera. And it is not science fantasy. There's never really been any focus on technology or the science aspect of anything in Star Wars ever.
That's true. No. That's very true.
That's all a complete fan fiction. Any of that stuff that's been on there is all from the fans.
Yeah. Like, the thing is, like, you have lightsabers, which, like, aside from a Dokamak, are completely physically impossible to exist. The Force.
And we don't even know why or how they did it. They're just there. It's like the Force. It's just
Tokamak. Yeah, that's the thing I'm talking about. Tokamak is essentially, it uses strong magnetic fields to bend plasma. George Lucas has clearly stated that lightsabers are laser swords. So that's impossible. Completely impossible. So plasma is very different from
most improbable. There's that whole deal with photon binaries that puts very minor probability in there.
Well, you also have the possibility of like the what was it? The blaster bolts also make no sense. Those things travel at like half the speed of a bullet.
Mm-hmm.
While we're on the topic also of Star Wars, can I get fuck Disney in the chat? Because they're destroying this glorious franchise.
Yeah,
see, I don't
destroying it though.
Like, the directors are not doing great, but they're also handed a pile of shit on requirements that they have to meet by Disney.
I'm not disagreeing. Fuck Disney.
See, I'm able to find a little bit of enjoyment out of the new stuff. I like that they kind of scrapped everything that's been written by everybody else so that nobody knows what's going to happen. But other than that, it's like...
It makes it easier to retcon.
Yeah.
Yep.
If nothing is canon but the movies. Hell, I wish Bethesda would take that take a little bit of that with Fallout. Start retconning everything.
So my thing is that and I've been long held this stance. I'm a big fan of the Old Republic universe in general, and I do hear that they are making an Old Republic show or movie. We're not really sure which it is, and I've heard some good news, bad news, back and forth on that. I think that that's a unique universe to try to use for storytelling, because there's so much that's thousands of years before the before the Battle of Yavin, so before the first movies even came out, before the prequels. So you have tons of time when events could happen that doesn't necessarily need to contradict the KOTOR video games or the Star Wars: The Old Republic video game. And it doesn't have to rely on those games for any story content. It could be something completely unrelated to any of it that does nothing with those stories at all, and it would still be amazing. I just like the idea of having that more fleshed out. It feels like essentially what you get by the time the new games or the new movies came out, the prequels and whatnot, is that you had a shadow of what both the Empire and the Republic used to be. And I feel like that would be kind of interesting to see that played out in a movie, TV show.
What I loved about the prequels, now that we're talking about something like that too, is I love how it showed Anakin's turn to the dark side. It shows how people got brought into temptation, where I think Anakin's temptation started a flesh. Like, Padme was very important to that.
It wasn't Padme, it was sand. Sand, it's coarse and it gets everywhere.
Yeah,
I thought it was
that
salt.
scene was so painful.
And I'm pretty sure his time in the desert, he had too much exposure to the spice.
Yeah, that's my thought.
I'm pretty sure Padme, he had too much exposure to the sauce, and that probably had something to do with it too. But that's something totally different.
Kev, you need to get into some Dune there, man.
You need to get on that Dune life.
Geriatric spice is just fucking awesome.
Yeah, no. In any case, though, no, I don't disagree with. I don't mind the stories overall, because there was a lot of cool stuff that we saw in the prequels. One of the things I love to do, and this really kind of is fascinating to watch the prequels again, and in the back of your mind, the whole time, I want you to picture and imagine and think about it from this perspective. Jar Jar Binks is the Sith Lord behind it all.
I wish Jar Jar Binks wasn't there in the first place, though.
No.
Like, Jar Jar Binks is a terrible character.
How he haphazardly looks like a goof and fool, but manages to like dodge lasers and like get a laser stuck on his foot and then shoot all the bad guys so randomly. It's like he just has this really crazy amount of luck. And then he is also instrumental in proposing that Palpatine get emergency powers. You know, he is, when you look at it from the perspective that he's actually a Sith Lord, that's the true evil that's pulling the strings the whole time, it changes the prequels into something really fascinating. That's all I'm saying.
And so much darker.
Like, if you view every action he does as a deliberate manipulation of some form or another.
You look at the pending emperor, it's like, this guy's pretty diabolical, but if you look at him as that is so much worse.
Yeah, like he is.
It's like Hannibal Lecter talking to you, like, okay, Hannibal Lecter, you can tell that this guy, he's an evil motherfucker. Like, he's already fucking with you, like, and he's smart. So it's like, I just want to run. You don't want to try and fight him. You just run. But if you got somebody like that, who's your best friend.
Kaiser fucking Soze.
Yeah.
Kaiser fucking Soze. That is all that needs to be said there, is that ultimately Jar Jar Binks is Kaiser Soze. Who is Kaiser Soze, you ask? Shh. Nobody knows who Kaiser Soze is. He's a myth. He's a legend. You guys haven't seen The Usual Suspects, by the way. Classic movie. You need to understand that reference to know what Kaiser Soze is.
Long time.
It is, yes. Anyway, that's the point. Jar Jar Binks is I feel like he is actually a Sith Lord. He is the most powerful Sith Lord. Many people have said that he's actually Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis the Wise. The one who was able to bring people back from the dead. Just saying, Jar Jar Binks was behind it all. He was the ultimate evil. Furthermore, let's talk for a minute about how the Sith aren't actually the bad guys. It's all Jedi propaganda, okay? The Jedi are fascist, dogmatic.
Stop this.
You've been listening to too much of Kreia.
Listen,
Stop
okay?
this.
The Jedi are dogmatic fascists that force their will upon everybody else and will reprogram and wipe the brains of people that don't agree with them.
You don't want to sell me death sticks. You want to go home and rethink your life.
Exactly. See, the Sith are just all about self-empowerment, individualism, and more or less about you taking your own life under your own control and being the best that you can be.
There was a funny thing, I read a very analytical, or not read, listened to a very analytical conjecture on from a YouTuber about Kreia and the nature of the Force and Force users, and that, the way it led to it is Luke Skywalker was supposed to be the end of both the Jedi and Sith.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it was presented, this makes a lot of fucking sense, and then Disney had to go and fuck it all up.
Of course they did.
I reject that insinuation that I'm Alex Jones. I'm not going crazy conspiracy theory.
There's not enough spit flying out of your mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
Your eyes are not bugging out nearly enough from screaming too much.
I'm not saying that the water's turned fish gay. All I'm saying is that maybe you should look at the Sith Jedi dynamic from a different perspective and stop just believing what you're being told. Because I feel like that everybody has just been manipulated for years into thinking that the Jedi are the good guys. There's actually good and evil don't play into that dynamic. No. It's actually chaos versus order.
Yeah.
Any good D&D DM will be able to tell you that.
Well, that's not even truly what it is. It is passion versus order.
Well, no. It's order versus chaos. When you're talking D&D, chaos is kind of a good epitomization of the Sith. They're very much it's not that they can't have a code under themselves.
You look at Emperor Palpatine was not chaotic in his movements. Granted, not counting the whole Jar Jar deal, but you look at the machinations of Palpatine, there was a lot of order behind that.
Mm-hmm.
He was very careful. There's a lot of foreplanning in what the movements he was doing, up until a certain point in which he got all the power, and then it did become chaotic to a certain point in which he lost sight of everything he'd built.
Well, essentially, when I
couldn't see the forest for the trees,
I should, instead of saying
or order, the other way around, couldn't see the trees from the forest.
Instead of saying order, I meant lawful. I forget my terminology. Yeah. Chaos versus lawful. When you're dealing with chaotic, it's not necessarily someone that is random and just does whatever. It's just generally someone who rejects good
point.
Rejects the current establishment of rules.
Those damn punks.
Yeah, that's a chaotic person, whereas a lawful person, and I'm talking intrinsically, without even thinking about it, they don't agree with someone having control over them. Whereas somebody who, in the good example that I've heard many people give, if you pull up to a stop sign in the middle of a flat open ground, you're in Oklahoma, nothing, no trees, no obstructions for miles. You can see there are no cars coming on any of the cross streets. It's wide open, middle of night, stop sign there. Do you stop at the stop sign or do you go through it?
Fuck no, go through.
You say go through the stop sign. I don't simply ignore the stop sign and drive past it. I drive through the stop sign. Fuck that stop sign. It does not belong there.
But a lawful person will stop at that stop sign, even if there's no other cars around. A chaotic person will blow through that stop sign because they see it as being a useless artifact of artificial rule. Right, it's
And that's
artificial.
where you
So
have
basically, we're all the
proper law
creators of
set up,
chaos.
like the driving laws in Germany, where you won't fucking see a stop sign. You'll see this road has right of way. That's a certain road has a right of way, and the other one doesn't. So be careful going through it.
So I just want to establish here, Kev. You're in agreement. You would go through that stop sign as well.
Yeah.
So congratulations, you all are Sith. Pack it up, folks.
Well,
we're
yeah,
done.
and it, like, playing the KOTOR games, like a lot of the Sith options, dialogue options, like I agree with this more.
That's one of the things I liked about KOTOR and SOTOR in general, is that they didn't
when you
paint
think
it
about
as...
it, though, you think about the Sith and the Jedi and what they really and how they really act. But yeah, do you go with what feels natural as a human, or do you go with what you're told by society is right? And that's what made so interesting.
Yeah,
that kind of philosophy is big in Starship Troopers from Robert Heinlein, and is also big in the Dune series too. There's different terms of reference, but it's the same idea.
Doom is a story. I just shoot shit.
Dune, as in that. Look at that.
Doom.
That meme I posted in the media channel. That's from Dune.
Yeah.
About who controls the spice controls the galaxy. That Dune.
So the Spice Girls in 95 when they control the spice.
But the philosophy is you're born with a survival instinct, but you have to be taught moral discipline. That's the Heinlein terminology behind it. The Dune terminology is animal versus human. You're born as an animal, you have to be taught to be a human. A human is more or less the betterment of your group, helping your group, as opposed to the animal is helping yourself.
Yep.
So basically, we've turned into animals in society, because now if we see a kid on the street getting kidnapped, well, it ain't my kid.
Not necessarily.
There's a
like that.
Well, no, there's a multi-step process behind that. Is you look at, like, okay, I go and help the kid out, trying to help somebody out. Well, okay, then I get kidnapped, and then my family's fucked up as a result of that, and I can't help my own family.
Yep.
So it's not a simple black and white.
My 30-year-old ass don't want to get kidnapped too.
There's that gray area behind it. It's not simple of like, oh, I'm going to help that kid or fuck that kid. It's like there's that gray area of
whoa, careful. We're not going that direction on this podcast, guys.
The other thing to take into consideration is the bystander complex, because if you've got a bunch of other people around, everybody's expecting somebody else to do something, so they don't have to do something.
That's why, like in a first response training, you don't say somebody call you've seen every movie. Somebody call 911. No, you don't do that. You point to a person. You call 911.
Yeah.
Or you just pick up your phone and call it your goddamn self.
So by the way,
if your hands are full, you can't call 911.
Yeah, if you're the one that's applying first aid in said situation.
Yeah, just to throw it out there, because I didn't notice the chat, because we kind of got Drew into the Star Wars thing, to not peek as Pikachu. What do we think of the Sonic trailer?
Oh, we talked about the Sonic trailer.
Yeah, you missed out on
that. I talked about that at the top of the show.
Yeah,
Sonic giving Zombie Jesus a run for his money.
Yeah, we actually did discuss that already earlier in the podcast.
At the very beginning,
because we're actually like, the reason why we're just off topic bantering about Star Wars right now is, first of all, it's May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Yes. Yeah. So that's the reason why we're kind of off on the Star Wars bit. But we did discuss Sonic at the beginning on one of our many tangents. In any case, we should get this wrapped up here, because it is now 9 p.m. and we're now 2 hours into it, and I am baking in this fucking office. I really need to get these monitors replaced. These things are space heaters, just like roasting me as I'm here on the podcast.
Your old ass shit. I mean,
yeah, they are like 20 pounds.
Thing you don't have
it doesn't help that he has like 15 monitors in there.
Yeah, but these two monitors are fine, because they're actually somewhat new. Well, I mean, the 4K one can get pretty toasty, but otherwise they're not that bad. But yes,
at least you're not running AMD.
Unlike
I'm
everybody
AMD.
else
I can
here.
Talk bad about AMD. I got Ryzen. I could talk all the mess about AMD.
Unlike everybody else,
your Ryzen uses potentially a lot less power than my Vega does.
I'm just saying, I'm the only true PCMR elitist here with my Intel i7 K-rated, unlocked, overclocked, and a GTX 1080.
But you need an i9 to be.
It's not water cooled.
It is.
So
Rose is the only one here with a full custom loop.
Yeah, no, I don't have the full custom loop, but my
water
CPU
cooling master race.
Yeah, my CPU.
It doesn't count when Rose doesn't show us full pictures and specs.
Mort has an AIO with the same performance as my air cooler.
Yeah, and it's probably not even
more noise.
Fine.
More noise.
But
it looks prettier. It does look prettier.
Yeah, no, the thing
that actually was what makes me want to go water cool with the AIO. I just think it's so much prettier, and I don't have the patience for a custom loop. I just don't.
It does look good, but here's the thing: is I
like the peace of mind of no liquid.
I will probably end up going with a custom loop at some point in time, just because one of the benefits of water cooling is the fact that it will standardize your temperature across all of your components. Most people think that it keeps things super cool. Well, no, it's not that it keeps things super cool. It's that it keeps things stable. That's the real benefit of it, is that you can ratchet up the overclocking on your CPU, and because it's got so much water through a full custom loop to displace that heat, that it actually takes a lot more energy for that CPU.
Just remember, you run it to your CPU first, then your GPU.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Actually, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter order you've got it in, because the liquid will balance out the temperature internally. So it'll get saturated with as much heat as it's going to, and that's it.
My cooling setup is like the opposite direction of I've got zoned air cooling. Like I've got an airflow zone for the CPU motherboard that, has its own fan setup that is controlled by the CPU temp, and then I've got a GPU zone that's affected by GPU temp. Right now my GPU is not doing jack shit, so there is three fans, including the GPU fan, or not including the GPU fans, that are not running. The GPU fans are also not running. So the bottom end of my CPU has very little airflow going through it because it doesn't need it.
I should say fan curves. I just don't give a shit. I'm using stock cooling, stock fans, no overclocking, and I'm happy. With my 4K 60 on my GPU.
And that's equally just as good as anything else. Yeah. I like to fuck with shit, so I do.
Yeah, that's that. My thing is that a lot of mine is that first of all, I like the aesthetics. I really, my end goal, and this is just peek into the brain of Morty here for a moment. My end goal is I actually want a steampunk themed computer build, and I want the custom loop water cooling pipes to look like copper pipes.
You can do that. It looks glorious.
$1,000 Sojourner keyboard.
I absolutely know that it can
do that on
be
your
done.
Next build?
I actually have a friend that actually does that. But yes, they are expensive. Those custom builds really, really run up the price tag. Yes, you get the Sojourner keyboard. You get that monitor that looks like the old school tube TV, like a cathode ray tube TV, but with no casing on it. That whole thing. Anyway, I think we've rambled enough.
Are you going to have it out before the game Cyberpunk comes out?
That's not Kev, we're not talking anymore. You confuse steampunk with cyberpunk, we can no longer be friends. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I thought you said cyberpunk.
No, steampunk. Steampunk.
Yeah, I thought I heard you say cyberpunk.
Yeah, no, in any case, though, we are going to get things wrapped up on here because, yes, we just keep rambling on, and we will keep rambling on all fucking night if I don't stop us. So, for those of you who are just now tuning in, who haven't tuned in here before, hi. We ramble a lot, as you can tell. We actually do stream every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. On 1 week, we do the podcast stream like you're watching now, and you guys get to watch Morty bake under the heat of his office. On the off week, we get together and we just harass each other and play some video games and chill out for a bit. Speaking
of more baking, you need to get some lighting, sir. You're starting to look like I did before I got these glorious Elgato lights.
I don't know what's up with the lighting tonight. It really is not that great. I'm not sure what's going on.
You and Xaiphen's lighting are both off.
Yeah, I think the exposure on my camera might have gotten turned down. I didn't feel like fixing it. People can see me well enough. So,
and you're a Sith Lord, so being in the darkness a little bit. Yeah,
I've got to
at least
dye
it works
my.
for Xaiphen because red hair people glow in the dark.
Yeah, you don't want to turn the lights up too brightly on.
Yeah, you think there's actual lighting around the room. There's like one little 1 watt light in the room, and everything is just reflecting off of my skin.
Yes.
Yeah. He has a nightlight.
This glow over here is actually, just glow from the side of my face.
All right, guys. All right. Wrap it up. All right. So in any case, for those of you who don't get to catch us live and are watching the VOD here, we do, like I said, stream it live Saturday nights at 7 p.m. However, if you also want to catch it somewhere else, such as on your drive-through traffic, we also do upload the audio to all of the major podcasting sites, including those like Apple Podcast, Google Play, all the other good ones out there, Spotify, Twitcher, Breakbox. Xaiphen didn't get the thing typed up quick enough, so I don't have my list in front of me. But you guys can catch us there and also listen to the audio. We love you guys. All that good stuff. My bot isn't running. The bot's not running.
That would explain why.
Everybody panic.
Praise Lisa Sue and Phil Spencer.
I don't know why it's not running. It is running. It's right here
Praise
behind
Xaiphen.
me. Anyway.
Fuck Tim Sweeney.
Kev, stop, please.
Praise Xaiphen.
Just don't. Anyway, guys, we're going to get signed off here for this week. We'll be back next week with a party podcast, although we haven't decided on the game. I'm leaning towards possibly Mass Effect 3, but...
I'm leaning toward Killing Floor. Or even Vermintide.
Hey, Kev, how about every time that you suggest that we play a game that Rose doesn't own, you get to buy it for her?
I'm down for that.
Rose doesn't have Killing Floor? I don't know Rose's library.
Hey, Kev has all that free money now that he ditched his PSN service.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're getting signed off here. You guys have a good one.
Shout out to Phil Spencer.
We had that entire...
I didn't know these were games you owned. I thought these were games that you were interested in.
No, those were actual
I had like 800 games.
And I've only got like 200.